Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I'm Tahir Hinsar and you're watching SDTV. Prime Minister for the first time has confessed that the progress on CPEC has slowed down because of the external and internal reasons. External reason he has quoted in an interview is that Xi Jinping could not visit Pakistan because of the COVID. So COVID is responsible. And those agreements which were to be signed then have been just signed now on his Olympic tour, and now it would be all right. It has been taken care of. But on the internal end, he says that government cannot own them special economic zones at the federal level because of the 18th Amendment, and that is a legal and structural impediment. What is the way forward to solve them, and would it further create a hurdle, or it would digress the progress on a project which is actually lifeline for Pakistan? We have today with us Dr. Waqar Ahmed. Dr. Very warm welcome. What do you say about that?
Thank you, Tahir Saab. I think you've, in your introduction, pointed to perhaps the most pivotal matter, challenge, I would say at the same time opportunity for Pakistan's revival of economic growth. There is still over $25 billion left in the originally envisaged CPEC pipeline, the pipeline of programs and projects which we had envisaged. There's a long way to go still for China, FDI originating from China, And I think Prime Minister's concern comes at a very right time, because Prime Minister really wants to see CPEC's phase 2 complete and CPEC to graduate into greater B2B interaction, which has been envisaged in CPEC's long-term plan, as we call it. However, the issues are, of course, known. It's not that we don't know the challenges. First and foremost, of course, COVID did slow down CPEC, but of course, Pakistan was fortunate to sort of open up earlier than peer economies. But then we also understand that the ongoing projects in CPEC also sort of met certain delays due to, of course, procedures, regulations, interprovincial decisions which needed to be made. And one of that aspect is the development of special economic zones. And the fact that these zones should have been up and running with, of course, plug and play facilities provided to the foreign investors, it sort of, there's no doubt in saying that there is delay, and this couldn't happen as per plan. And a concern which was also shown in the Joint Coordination Committee as well. But those provinces who have been progressive, for example, it's not that we are not seeing progress over there. So we have seen, in case of Punjab, for example, Faisalabad SEZ picked up well, not at the same scale, of course, as it should have. Dhabeji, of course, is trying to pick up, not at the same level yet, or not at the same pace yet. Rashakai, the civil work has just sort of started, and you're the first Century Steel, which has come from China to set up a plant. But this is the kind of activity that Prime Minister is referring to, that this should have happened, the process should have started. You should have been in that state where you were receiving Chinese investors in big numbers, And just to add to your introduction, what you were saying, SEZs is not China specific. You also have to invite non-China investor in these SEZs. So you may have, for Chinese investor, you may have one windows, for example, in the form of CPEC Authority or at BOI, for example. But Prime Minister is also pointing towards those non-China investors who have to be received in these SEZs as well. Are we giving the same kind of treatment to them, for example? Or are they having to go to various windows, which adds up to their transactions cost, for example? And lastly, if I can add to your question, because it's a very comprehensive question, that the Chinese who are now based in Pakistan, And it's been almost 5, 7, 6 years. Some of them came and they are now mature. They are working out of Sundar Industrial Estate, for example. Some of them are working in Sindh. They have a key concern, which is the infrastructure bottlenecks. So they are saying that the moment we want to expand, we want more gas, more electricity, and you don't have it. The scale at which
Electricity is there.
For example, I can cite you an example of a Chinese investor, a survey which was conducted. The Chinese investor from the horse's mouth, he said that to get the upscale connection of electricity meter to expand, it took me 8 months. So I'm sure the wait period was much longer. They have brought it down to 8 months. But for a foreign investor,
it's too much.
Who has lined up the working capital, and you are for their expansion purpose, they get the upscale meter 8 months later. It's too much.
Under the CPEC, not under the CPEC, but I mean in conjunction with the CPEC, Pakistan is laying down a huge pipeline of fiber optic from Karachi, Gwadar to the Djibouti and East Africa. And the vision is that is the AI, artificial intelligence and all. And they have set up a center under the Air Force a couple of months back. That at the moment it is for the military, but the products would trickle down for the CPEC. Do you think there is enough preparation on that side as well?
I mean, in terms of the civil work or the actual construction work required to lay the fiber optic
submarine.
Yes, a submarine as well. I mean, it's been encouraging. The progress has been encouraging, and the progress has been fast-paced despite of COVID. But your question also has another dimension. We have to now utilize this. There have to be economic gains from this as well. And this is where the policies related to IT and telecom have been pending for so long. And we can let you know the Chinese sentiments, for example. They really want to know that to expedite this ecosystem of AI, for example, where is the implementation of, let's say, your cloud computing policy, your broadband policy, for example, even the cyber protection policies that we are putting in place, that implementation is very slow. And we have recently received a Chinese investor wanting to invest in mobile phone manufacturing. And they also raised the same concern that while, yes, we can sort of do the infrastructure work, but then to get economic gains from this infrastructure, for private sector to use these, let's say, fiber optic and other infrastructure, you need to lure them through a very conducive policy ecosystem in IT and telecom sector. The draft policies have been lying down for ages now, And then another aspect is that they are saying that you change your fiscal policy with respect to IT and telecom more frequently than other countries. So you give us, let's say, 1 year, 2 year, 3 year certainty that this will be the tax structure which ICT or IT goods manufacturers will face in Pakistan. But the fact that their taxation structure changes twice or thrice a year, you've just seen more taxes slapped on the IT sector, for example.
Do you think 18th Amendment is a major impediment? And I'm just to qualify, I say why. First, it has, vertically handed over to the provinces. And the federation has very little control, especially on the revenue side. And second, the surplus they were supposed to generate and come back to the federation is not coming. So the fiscal structure is it's not performing. And second, if a federation want to give a guarantee, sometime a sovereign, it is useless because now after 18th Amendment, this is like more or less a very close-knit confederation.
Absolutely, Tahir Sahab. I think this is a huge point. And you see, as I always say, 18th Amendment is still work in progress. I do understand that this is how democracies, of course, mature, and provinces have been wanting this sort of autonomy for long, and it's fine. This is how, of course, it works globally as well. But fact is that you have to learn by doing. And I can tell you about our neighbor India, for example. It's not been an easy road for them as well. There have been twice occasions post-devolution where they had to take the subject of water back to the federal list.
Health was evolved.
That's right. So nothing is as such sort of fixated. You can always go back to the canvas board, and if there are subjects, for example, which are important for economic growth, economic revival, sustainability of this country, just bring it to CCI, and I'm sure all provinces would get to gain. So nobody's talking about scrapping the amendment altogether. Everyone is saying that it's a work in progress. And if you look at the original intention as well, there was supposed to be an implementation plan of the 18th Amendment, which had to finalize institutions for 18th Amendment by 2015. That couldn't happen up until now. We are only doing it now that, okay, let's have this harmonized structure for food standards in 4 provinces. Okay, let's talk about tax harmonization across 4 provinces. So we are a decade late in doing this.
And what about this? I mean, it might seem not as much relevant to the subject, but do you think Chinese are comfortable directly dealing with the provinces? Like Hafiz Sheikh, for the first time, brought in foreign direct investment to the province of Sindh when he was finance minister there.
Yes, my own hunch is, Tahir Sahab, and I haven't been privy to the recent meetings, that they're fine in dealing with provinces who have the capability to interact with foreign investors. So when I cited examples of, for example, the special economic zone in Faisalabad, and now you can see the Rashakai coming up as well. So provinces also had to build their capacity gradually. Unfortunately, that has taken long. But now when they have the capacity, they have right kind of HR to talk in the provincial boards of investment with the Chinese, the work quickly gets fast-paced. It's not that Chinese are not working in Karachi or Hyderabad or other cities of Sindh. They are actively there. But the pace that you are talking about, that only comes when I have the right kind of HR sitting in my policy institutions, which have to act as a catalyst to lure the Chinese.
In the phase 2, they have, correct me if I'm wrong, they have laid down for steel, AI, artificial intelligence and electronics and all that stuff, and 2 others, and agriculture as well. Is there any other component?
Well, I think they are coming
in steel.
Yes, they are coming in pharmaceutical. They are apart from iron and steel. They are coming in FMCG goods as well, fast-moving consumer goods. For example, they are in hardware, household hardware, and construction hardware industry as well. They want to come in auto parts
manufacturing.
Auto parts manufacturing, yes, because now they have their cars which are being assembled. Chinese cars are being assembled in Pakistan. They want the back end over here as well. But more importantly, Tahir Sahab, the recent investors, Chinese investors that we have seen in STZA, Special Technology Zone Authority, Chinese are coming in with big interest in IT and ICT goods industry. As I said, the last investor that we received over there wanted to set up a mobile phone manufacturing plant. I'm not talking about an assembly plant. It's a manufacturing plant, So those are the kind of sectors where we now need to attract.
Is there any progress on that proposal?
Yes. So
where? The Faisalabad?
No, in Islamabad. In Islamabad, the Technopolis over here, And STZA has received.
We have place here?
Yes, we have place here. We have
Where?
100-acre land in Islamabad.
Where?
It's dedicated very near to the industrial area.
I-9 and all that. So how do you see, I'm just quoting the Prime Minister, 18th Amendment, how do you see what is the pathway?
I think the pathway is that now that PTI is there and strong in at least 3 of the provinces, And with Sindh, of course, you are trying to keep a relationship which is workable. Like, for example, you went out of your way to accommodate their census request, population census request. I think that is the way. Those elements in 18th Amendment, for example, taxation, you pointed that out. For example, food standards. Anything which is necessary for economic growth, for health, for education, for social sector uplift, bring that into CCI. I think the government should lead the debate with taking into account provincial views and opinions. And if a new institutional mechanism has to be evolved under the 18th Amendment, so be it. As I said, our neighbor India, for example, a much larger economy, which has taken, for example, tax reform process has taken since 1992, for example, and still they are doing it, So the issue, I think, in the other part of your question is that our CCI or the Secretariat of CCI needs to be more efficient. And that's how things will evolve.
Okay. So last, just what do you think that how should we take up authorities now? It has been, if not recreated, but it has improved with a chairman, and he seems very willing and able and diligent and all that. What do you say? How should they deal that, if not 18th Amendment, on other things overall?
I think it's good that with the coming of the new chairman, because he's from the private sector, he's a very known figure of the private sector, has remained with the other big players in this sector as well. I think the relationship that the CPEC authority had with your large-scale firms in Pakistan, that is set to improve, because already some of the large-scale businesses in Pakistan had reservations. They wanted to have more information about CPEC portfolio.
Want to avoid competition.
Yes, yeah, that's right. Or at least have a level playing field with the Chinese, So that public-private dialogue has improved with the reorganization and the new leadership at CPEC.
So this phase 2 is B2B, B2G and G2G, all three.
That's right, absolutely.
Okay. Thank you very much. With this we come to the end of the program. If I want to summarize, the one-liner would be that there is still need to improve the situation on the drawing board, on the canvas. We need to go back and redraw some things, especially with the 18th Constitutional Amendment and relationship with incoming Chinese investors, and on relationship with Chinese investors and the local investor. With this come to the end of the program. Please keep watching our program and write your comments by logging in so we can improve in the light of that. Thank you.